Thank you all for joining us today. We have with us Ravi Kumar, Senior President and Chief People Officer at Page Industries. And this is the conversation that we're having as part of the Success Navigator, the People Matter SHRPA interview series. Thank you for joining us today, Ravi.
Thank you very much, Dhruv. My pleasure. And it was wonderful looking at the report and also looking at a few surprises there.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. We will touch upon those surprises as you mentioned. To give you a little brief, Ravi, this conversation is part of our initiative to talk with top HR leaders across APAC and Middle East to delve further into some of the research findings that we have found in the People Matters Sherpa Global Report. And the interview today will primarily focus on how we can accelerate change management and overcome some of the change execution gaps that we have identified across the report, across critical junctures within HR through the use of HR technology. I hope that's okay with you.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Great. So with this, let me dive straight into our first question today. In the report, we've noticed, tech-enabled change execution has emerged as a major challenge for HR across Asia Pacific and Middle East. My first question to you is why do you think factors like raising productivity through AI and analytics and executing digital transformation still remain a major area of dissatisfaction for HR leaders? And if you had to look at it from a change management standpoint, how do you think HR leaders can really address some of these challenges in 2025?
Interesting one, Dhruv. And, I personally feel it's also a lack of understanding of what technology can do for you, especially in the area of AI. A lot of us, including myself, are probably not well schooled in the art of productivity as well as in the terms of ensuring better efficiency, if I may call it that, through tools like AI. And I
Right.
think we all need some more real use cases, which are not enough on the HR side or the people initiative side. If there are enough of those and if we are able to see some real results on the ground, then I think most HR folks would be very, very convinced. I think that's where the gap is currently. It's a trust deficit in many ways. A lot of
Yes.
tools have been imposed on us. A lot of us in our own domains have implemented different kinds of tools and we have seen differing results. Not all of us have been happy with most of the tools that have been implemented in the last few years. And I think
Right.
that trust deficit is what is showing up. And, I think that's what is leading to your question.
Right. Right.
And also, I think you largely touched about the change management aspect as well. Um, I think there is a trust deficit there as well. Several of us in the earlier years would have brought in a lot of change management aspects and, tried to do them in our respective functions, locations, organizations. But, this will not succeed, in my humble opinion, without a collaborative approach with other functions, because the human resource function, unlike most other functions, is always tied into various aspects of the business. It's always tied into finance, it's tied into supply chain. All
Agreed.
people initiatives are always tied into the cost as well as the compensation and benefits area. A
Agreed.
large part of our businesses in all our organizations really depend on people. So if this collaborative approach is missed out during change management, I think that's where possibly some of our lack of trust also starts.
Great. I'm glad you touched upon that collaborative approach because when we look at change management, I think that's one area which is going to become even more important as newer technologies like AI and analytics become a business need to implement. So thank you for that. My next question is around a unique dichotomy that we found in the research report, where on one hand we found when it comes to being ready to adapt and ready to change, some around 77% of HR leaders across APAC and Middle East said they were ready to adapt to business and talent disruptions, while we found around 64% are set to miss out on HR transformation success, when it comes to executing for impact and executing for business delivery, if they're not people centric and again tech enabled. Why do you think this dichotomy exists? And what are some strategies that you would recommend HR leaders for 2024 to truly strengthen their transformation success?
Yeah, I think, again, going back to the collaborative approach that I was speaking about, if that is missing, that's where the trust deficit comes. And that's why you'll have HR folks, also being part of this dichotomy where we say, yeah, we are ready for, this change. But when it comes to our own backyard, when it comes to processes within HR, we are not ready. Right? I mean, literally, that's what it means.
Yeah,
And I guess this is also because many of us, and sorry to say that, many of us may not be 100% aligned in terms of people processes versus, let's say, where the business is. We do hear a
understood.
lot from our business leaders about, where the business is going, but are we ready to align that in terms of, where the HR practices are going? Are these two aligned? Possibly not, and therefore, you would see that there is this dichotomy, right? As an
Yeah,
individual or as an HR person, I might be ready for a lot of this change happening in the organization. When it comes to my function and my processes, we are not there. Like I was mentioning to you earlier, Dhruv, we are a little late to the party, all of us HR folks, right? The business
agreed.
functions, the other enabling functions like finance, supply chain, etc., have been early to the party. They have aligned with where the business is going. The direction is the same, and I think that's really helped them look at change management in the way the organization would love to see it. With the HR folks, I think in general, some organizations have perfected this, I must say, but most organizations have not. Most HR folks have not, and that's why you see this gap. Uh, in terms of where business would like us to be, and where we are,
Understood.
especially in
Yeah,
tech and transformation.
yeah,
What I would recommend, my logic always has been with anything that is large and audacious, like an HR transformation, which also has a digital concept,
yeah.
is to take it one piece at a time, right? So it's great to have a modular approach, pick up one module, look at how it works. If it works well, try the same techniques on the next module that you'd love to take up, and then take up a few more modules together. So a modular approach, if I may put it that way, would possibly really, really help in terms of ensuring that change management happens the right way.
Understood. Understood. I think that point of alignment and reiterates the need for HR to proactively, look at different business functions and align how people centric and how tech enabled its initiatives truly are. So thank you for that. I think another question that I had looking at some of the findings from the report, we found tech maturity plays a great role in ensuring how change ready and how execution ready HR is today. When we see the gap between progressive leaders who have an advanced AI suite, who have an integrated HR platform, versus laggards who for the report are at still at a basic HR automation level, we see their effectiveness in driving talent management. There's a difference of almost 31% between the progressive companies and the laggards. Again, I would love to hear from you. What factors do you see holding back companies when it comes to really upping their tech maturity levels? And maybe looking at the next 12 to 18 months, what are some strategies that companies can really implement to sort of bridge that gap? Because we know technology, HR tech, especially from a delivery standpoint, is becoming an indispensable asset.
Right. Absolutely, Dhruv. And I think if you look at the report as well, it's a sizable chunk of people who are in the so-called laggards group. Some of these
Yeah,
companies might have a very large workforce as well, so that it contributes to a very large set of people out in the market. I really feel that a lot of this is also about business impact, which has not been realized.
understood.
Investing in HR tech is something that one would do as a business concept, right? It's also a business that I'm running. When I have people and they are being productive and they are contributing to revenue, and if I invest in tech on that side, on the people side, there has to be an ROI. There has to be a clear impact that I should be able to justify when I'm putting forth, technology that is going to help me. Either it is, optimizing cost. It could also be efficiency. It could also be, ensuring that best practices which result in even greater revenue is what I should be able to put together when I'm talking about tech on the HR side. And I think that is a gap as well. A lot of us do not consider this to be a business imperative. Tech on the HR side is a business imperative. We are investing, and there has to be a return. And I think connecting these two is the CHRO's job, right? And I think that's something which all of us have to learn to do better. To be very, very honest, the other aspects that are also very important is that tech is changing very fast. What you would have had as HR tech options 4 years ago during COVID, you have many more right now. It's exploded there,
Yeah.
and you're spoiled for choice as an HR, right? And most of them are very similar to the other, to be very honest. So, ensuring that you have a true fit to what the company needs and what employees need is absolutely very, very important. And I think, given the amount of choice that we have, sometimes we are swayed by costs, or sometimes we are swayed by the brand name of the tech entrepreneur that is putting the solution forward. I would rather say that it's always good to see what is the actual requirement on the ground in terms of the exact scope, right? And if you've been able to scope your HR processes in the right way, and you build it for the next 5 years or 10 years, because you're not going to change tech for the next 5, 10 years, hopefully.
Yeah.
So I think that, if it is done well and planned well, then this whole investment in tech becomes quite easy. And it's an easy, explanation to, let's say, boards of companies who are actually spending this. The
Right.
last
Right.
part I would always say is that, this thing about trust again. Um, a lot of us, talk to each other. So a lot of HR teams that have implemented, tech solutions in their own organizations would have seen it in a good way or in a bad light. And, I think we also get influenced a lot by word of mouth. So I think this whole thing about having trust on the technology is also equally important. And which then takes me back to my earlier point. If the implementation of tech in people practices is done in the right way, and you're
Yeah.
able to derive the impact to business, and you're able to see value, then I think it becomes an easier, trust factor that I can employ as far as technology is concerned. So I guess these are a few factors, though, that I can think
Definitely, definitely. And I like this factor of trust that comes up again, because what we've seen in the report is there are definitely aspects where HR and HR tech providers are significantly aligned when it comes to investment levels and when it comes to tech innovation areas. But there are also misalignment areas where a lot of catching up that HR tech providers need to do, and in parallel, a lot of work that maybe HR leaders need to put in to sort of understand this role of technology, the scope of technology, and build the sustainable infrastructure, as you say, for the next 5 to 10 years. So it's great to hear those points coming from you also as strategies that HR leaders should implement. You mentioned the role of CHRO briefly there, and I would like to really know from you, if you had to, given our discussion till now, where we have explored some of the technological gaps when it comes to implementing and leveraging technology for execution, how else do you see the CHRO's role really evolving from what it currently is to ensuring that HR as a whole is able to deliver business results better?
Right, Dhruv. I think that's a very interesting question. The CHRO, that the role that was there till now, I think has been a process role. Yeah. It's all about processes. You get your process right, then you get your, people, evolution right, or people transformation right. I
Yeah.
don't think that works. I don't think that works anymore. The CHRO is now a digital person, or needs to be a digital person, has to think with a digital mindset, because that's what is happening today. We like it or not. The world is a digital place today. A lot of us conduct business digitally. I mean,
Right.
we are talking here in a meeting online. Dhruv, it's all technology
Right.
that we are using, which has been tested before this interaction. And I think that's what is going to happen in the future as well, as far as HR practices are concerned, or even people practices are concerned. So I think
Right.
we need to move from this mindset of being a process expert and a process person into being a digital person and having a digital mindset. Banks have done it, the government has done it. For example, if you still like to do your compliance activity, let's say with the PF office or any other you know uh, let's say government department today, a
Yeah.
lot of it is done online, right? um,
Definitely.
Contrary to normal expectations, a lot of stuff is done on, and I think that strengthens the whole process as well. So moving from a CHRO mindset of being a process person to being a digital person is probably what is required for the future, or what is required even today. It's already there.
Yeah.
CFOs are digital folks, as I understand. They are a lot
Right.
about technology and a lot about how to harness technology. I see no reason why CHROs cannot be.
Agreed. So thank you for that. And I would completely agree with you. If I mean, readers of the report can also delve further into some of the effectiveness and skills that we've also identified as part of the growing demand from HR, and definitely like being digital first and having that readiness to adapt digital is equally important. And that brings me to my next question, where we tracked HR investment levels for the next 1 year, and what we found were some interesting findings that I would love to explore your views on. One of the findings that we found was a significant portion of HR leaders, somewhere around 23 to 25% of HR leaders, are saying that their investments in strategic areas like attracting the right people, and 21% saying that investments in raising HR's own effectiveness with AI and analytics in the next year is actually going to drop. How do these findings sit with the experience that you are having at your workplace or in your conversations with other HR leaders? And what do you see are some of the reasons which are stopping HR from raising its own effectiveness through analytics or through AI today?
Well, Dhruv, this is where this was a surprise for me when I read the report first time, and I'm very surprised. The impression that I have, and at least friends that I speak to or colleagues that I know from many years, are the ones who are actually investing in this area. So this is a
Definitely.
bit of a surprise. So a digression from what I already know, but possibly at a much larger level, this is what is happening, and maybe the report reflects that. But what I would say is that I think these are things that are sort of imperatives, and we can't ignore.
Definitely.
Even if I don't invest in them tomorrow, I'll be forced to invest in them day after tomorrow, largely because this is something that cannot be ignored. Unless, of course, we see this as a fad, and the fact that it is going to be replaced by something newer a few years later. Now, that's not what I hear from experts. What I hear from expert is that these technologies, especially AI or even generative AI, are here to stay, and they're going to make a very big impact. They're already making a big impact in our lives, our day-to-day lives. A lot of that impact is seen even today. I don't think HR people are immune to that. I would
Definitely.
strongly suggest that this is going to be disastrous if we ignore it. Um, any and all tools will have it. Of course, there's a choice if I don't want to use it, but I'll probably be like an ostrich with my head in the sand, and the entire world has moved ahead. HR is not an island. It is part
Definitely.
of a business setup inside a business organization. This is also a business, and therefore we cannot ignore technology like AI, etc., or even generative AI, which is really going to help us. I think it's great to take the head out of the sand and take a look at what's happening all around. And I think it's always great, like I keep saying, to connect it to the impact. And if it has a great impact on people, if it has a great impact on the lives of employees, I think it's actually great to embrace it. I hope
Right.
this report does not suggest that HR folks are not happy to embrace the latest movements in technology. That would be very unfortunate. But yeah, I think the best way to look at any advancements in science and technology or even tech is to really look at it from the lens of how is it going to help me with my uh, people goals and therefore with my business goals. If I'm able to
Understood.
link these, then I think I'm in a good space. It doesn't matter what you call it, AI, Gen AI, or something else, but as long as it brings in a great impact, which is a positive impact on people, I think it's wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that. And just to add on to that, I think what the report sort of comes up with is not just that there is maybe a low investment in within AI, but actually there's an imperative. There's a growing need, as you sort of say. There's somewhere around 60% saying that in the coming year they are going to look at leveraging AI and analytics to raise productivity. But when it comes to HR's own effectiveness, I think we found that that investment into analytics, talent analytics, and building its own capabilities, that's where the uh, gap that we have identified,
Yeah.
and that goes back to a lot of points that you mentioned.
Yes, Dhruv, and it's all about what works for my internal customer, is great, but I don't want that. It literally means that in blunt language.
Yes,
I don't think that approach works. What works for
agree.
my internal customer should also work for me internally.
Exactly.
And uh, and so therefore I'm a little surprised with that part of the.
Great. That actually brings me to my last question, Ravi, and that's around how HR leaders can really lead and strengthen the change management process. I know we've spoken about some of these topics, some of these points earlier on, but we've seen today like the decision-making stakeholders are more varied. CFOs, CIOs, CEOs are way more involved in the tech, selection process, evaluation process, and this entire gamut of really executing through AI. Is a challenge for HR. So, how do you see the next 12 to 18 months? HR or CHR is really playing that role of strengthening the change management process in place to ensure that these technologies are able to yield the right business results.
Right, Dhruv. I think the great CHROs are actually changing the mindset. Like I was saying, from a
Yeah,
process mindset to let's say a digital mindset. And I think it's not just the CHRO. We need the entire HR team as well as the organization, which is all around the HR function, all functions all across the business aligned together in terms of
yeah,
where to go with the tech aspects. And I think great CHROs are actually able to bring this together, right? So
sure.
bring in also the internal IT team, bring in the business excellence team, bring in external, let's call them partners who help you understand this whole thing better, and bring the whole level of the HR team to the level of a digital expert, right?
Yeah,
And much beyond just putting together some great processes. So I think that's where it is going, and that's where it should go. There are some great examples of great organizations. I'm sure a lot of them are there in your report as well, without the names, but I think we can learn from them. So one thing is to be agile and be open to where the
definitely.
business is going. Business moves very quickly, and these days you see
Right,
suddenly consumers as well, and those in let's say consumer markets see a whole lot of sudden changes, sudden shifts,
right.
and there are sometimes really strong shifts, and it changes the way
Right.
consumers think, and companies sometimes struggle to keep up with it. But generally I find that businesses, those businesses that keep up with these large shifts are also the ones where the people uh, are also able to understand the shift and also able to change the mindset. And I think that's where the CHROs who play a great role in bringing their people up to speed with what's happening in the outside market are the ones who will actually be able to do the change management much better. So it's like this whole thing about being agile and being tuned into what's happening externally as well as internally. And of
Right.
course, there are multiple options these days. When I'm doing a transformation, there's a lot of help available internally and externally. And I think one
Right.
should make full use of that, be open to it. There are a lot of great, if I may call them HR teams in various organizations who do great work. It's always good to understand, what worked for them and try and implement
Yeah.
that in, the organization. So I think being agile and being actually open to, focusing on what makes impact much faster and which is aligned to my own organization's business goals is what will help the change management process, in a better way.
Right.
This is what
Right.
at least I would expect a CHR.
No, understood, understood. And then you talk about a significant mindset shift that encapsulate all of these changes that that you mentioned. So I think that's great from a vision of really trying to build for a successful 2025. Thank you for joining us, Ravi. That helps me end this discussion today. We've had some focused insights and some focused strategies on really building that technology capabilities. Any closing comments that you might have that you think I might have missed from my questions? Any other aspects that you think we should be talking about?
No, nothing beyond what we discussed, Dhruv, but just closing remark, if I may put it that way. It's always great to measure, HR practices and also HR transformation aspects in terms of something that I learned from some of my previous organizations. It's called a what, how, and impact model. A very simple model. Whatever you're doing, put it in this what, how, and impact model and see if it stands the test. So what is, exactly what are you going to do? What exactly is the activity that you're going to do? What is the process that you're going to change? Are you going to simplify something? The how part is the process part. How will you get this done? How will you execute it? And then the impact is what is the impact on business, right? So I think if
Right.
you have a what, how, and impact model for every transformation and every piece of transformation that a CHRO would like to do in his or her organization, I think that would really help, understand it better. And also sometimes say that I don't need this, let me get rid of this. Maybe I replace it with something better. So what,
Right.
how,
Right.
and impact model is what I wanted to leave.
Great. That's actually a great way of thinking through a lot of these technologies, which often I'm sure CHROs get bombarded with, and to really build that muscle of implementing what's right for the business. So thank you. Thank you for that, Ravi. Thank you for that closing remark, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Dhruv. Pleasure's mine and all the very best.
Yeah, great. Thank you.